Hi, welcome to Bookwood. It's cold. Let's go inside. Come in.
Enchanté. I go by Machou. I am glad you chose to spend some time with me. Since it's the first time we meet, I'll introduce myself. I hope you take the time to introduce yourself in the comments down below. I can't wait to discuss our reading, to team up for readathons, competitive or not, and to share our journal spreads together. That's what I love, reading, readathons, and journaling. I hope you do too, and that we can bond over these subjects. I have been thinking about how to introduce this channel for a while, and I decided to go with the booktube newbie tag created by Brenda C. back in February 2014. Unfortunately, the original version of this tag is no longer available on YouTube, but I found the 7 original questions and some additional questions on the internet. I have decided to group them in a section about my reading and a section about this channel. Let's dive in with the section about my reading. The first question is, when did you start to read? I start to read as soon as I learned to read, by age 6. And I never stopped. I spent my childhood with my nose in a book, and I spent my adolescence doing exactly the same. I read way less once I became an adult and started working, got married, and started the whole social life that comes with all those things. But after COVID, I decided it was time to pick up reading again. I was thinking a lot about a book series I started a few years prior that was the Life Ship trilogy by Robin Hobb, and I decided it was time to finish this story, and that's what I did. This brings us to what books I love to read. I love to read mainly fantasy, but I challenged myself to read throughout a whole bunch of different genres the last 2 years, and I discovered that I do love a good thriller or a good contemporary fiction. Where do I read? I read everywhere. I have always 2 books going on. A physical one that I read as soon as I can go sit down. That can be in my living room, but that can also be in my bed just before I go to sleep. But also on some more unexpected places, like on a bench in the park whilst my kids play at the playground, or in waiting rooms or my car whilst I'm waiting for my kids to come out of an appointment or something. And I always have an audiobook going on, so I can listen to it whilst I do chores around the house. The last question in this section is, why do you love to read? I love to read because I can live 1,000 adventures in my head. I can explore ideas that I cannot explore in the real life, but also because it calms down my ever busy, anxious head. Let's start the section about this channel. I will combine the 2 first questions because the second is the answer to the first. The first question is, why did you start a channel? And the second is, what can you bring that is fun or new to BookTube? I started a channel because I think I can bring some aspects to BookTube that I haven't met in videos before. The first one is due to my native language. By now you have noticed that I have an accent when I speak English and that sometimes I need to search for my words. That's because my native language is French, and even if my English is quite good, I think, I have still some difficulty because I cannot practice a lot. Being a native French speaker means that most of my reading is in French, but it doesn't mean that all the books I read are unavailable to you. Most of them are translations from English works or works that were translated to English prior to that. But I also discovered that many French authors have been translated to English, and that's something I never hear talking about. So let's just make clear. By French authors, I don't especially mean French like from France. I mean authors who write in the French language, which can be people from Belgium, France, Switzerland, Luxembourg, Quebec, and a whole lot of other countries. So what I hope to bring to you is the noticing of the books that have been translated from French to English, so you can discover these less known works and love them maybe as much as I do. Another thing that is particular to my reading and that might add something to booktube is that I made a concession with myself and tried to read books that are less known and that are mostly part of the books that are available on my Audible and Kindle subscriptions and that are included. These are often lesser known books and authors, and I have discovered some great books that way, books that are never spoken about and that I wish to make known to you. In the same vibe, I have another particularity, and that is that most of the books I read come from our local library. This is a very personal choice that at this point I don't wish to discuss. Choosing the library has given me two restrictions in my reading. The first one is that the most hyped or the most recent books are not always available to me. They first need to arrive at my library, and then I will need to stand in line and wait for my turn to have them to read. So I read often some older books or lesser known books from my library, and this is great because this is books that maybe you never heard of because they weren't talked about when you arrived at booktube. And so I will try to make these books known also to the world. Older books or less common books. And the last little point that might interest you is that we are a reading family. I have 5 kids and I stimulate them to read, and my husband is a reader too. So this means that in our family we have a lot of traditions that go along with books, and we have noticed that there are very few, even maybe none, channels that speak about children's books or how to stimulate children to read and how to tie in the reading into a daily life of a family. So this will not be a main focus of this channel, but it will most certainly come forward. This brings to the next question, and that is what I'm excited about for this channel. What I'm most excited about is to share these books that I cannot share with anybody else on the booktube because nobody else talks about them, but also to be sharing the joy of reading that you can have as a family. The challenges I think we'll be facing will be mostly how to keep this channel original, how to keep a difference between the several reading vlogs that are mostly the type of videos that reading channels offer. So we'll see how good I will be doing at that. Another question, and the last question for this section, is the questions I would like to ask to my favorite booktubers. I have 2 questions for them. The first one would be, how do you deal with the pressure that gets on your hobby when it becomes something that you have to produce? Once you get out videos, I suppose you need to keep up the reading, and I'm afraid this will take away a little bit of the joy. How do you handle this? And the second question I have is, how do you balance out videos when you come into a period of your life where you read less? Maybe because you're just not attracted to reading, but maybe also because life is being live and throwing a whole bunch of other things to handle at you. The 11th question that is on this questionnaire is to show what your collection of books looks like. Unfortunately, at this point, I cannot do this. My collection is quite small since I don't have a lot of space to store books, and most of the books I do have are stored because we are transforming our bedroom and in just to create a library in it. So I will hold this question for you, and when I can show my collection, you will have a video about that question alone. A last thing I want to mention on this video is what you can expect as an uploading schedule. I have created myself a very ambitious one. I hope to bring you 6 videos each month, every 5 days. One on the 5th, that will be a reading wrap-up of the previous month. One on the 10th, that I will call the surprise video, because the subject of this video will be reading related, but undefined for now. If you have any suggestions, you can leave those in the comments below too. You will have a vlog about my reading for about 2 weeks, every 15th and around 30th of the month. Around the 20th and the 25th, you will get journal setups. One will be a reading journal setup and the other one will be a bullet journal setup. Bullet journal, you say, what does this have to do with reading? Well, if you're not interested, feel free to skip them. But let me just tell you that my monthly spreads are always inspired by a book. This can be a children's book because of the art style. This can be the cover of a book or a subject of a book that I really loved. I feel I have been talking a way lot, and that with all that talking, everything is said. So I am very curious to see who you are, and I'm saying goodbye to you for now so I can go read all your comments. I hope to see you soon again. Au revoir! See you soon!